السفيرة جينا وينستنلي الدبلوماسية الأمريكية السابقة ومدير مكتب شؤون المشرق في وزارة الخارجية الأمريكية سابقا. برحب بها. You're most welcome here.
Thank you. شكرا.
Let me know, what are your impressions? Because what we hear from spokespeople is always something that is very generic, that does not really indicate anything that is happening, and this is normal, that what happens. But I would like an in-depth insight from you about the purpose of the visit and the outcome that is expected to make this visit successful or not successful.
Thank you. Perfect question. Well, it's clear Mr. Trump is very transparent, and it is about money. It is about investment in the United States in particular. Everyone knows he is looking for big numbers, and so far he appears to be getting them, so he's going to be very pleased. We have challenges in the U.S. economy, as everyone knows, with his economic policy. The tariffs have weighed down the U.S. economy as well as the international economy. And so his being able to bring home investment money, that $600 million that the Saudis have pledged.
Billion,
the
that is 600 billion, right?
Billion, yes,
Billion,
indeed.
yes. Yeah.
Billion. And the 1.4 trillion that the Emirates
UAE.
are about. Yeah, exactly. So these are the kinds of numbers he's looking for. We know how much he enjoys coming to the Gulf, to the Arab world in general. Hospitality is incomparable. And so we see some very important steps that he has taken in response to his belief that this relationship is very important. He made some commitments about bringing peace to Ukraine, bringing peace to Gaza and Israel, and has not been able to do it. So this trip changes the topic and also brings some very positive buzz around it, meaning the release of the hostage, the discussion of moving forward on humanitarian assistance to Gaza, and of course, lifting the sanctions on Syria. This is a very important step from the president.
All right. I mean, so what would the other side get back? I mean, for such major investments, which probably they would be successful investments, but for such a gift given to President Trump, what will they get in return?
Well, there are a few things that each of these countries want. Certainly, the connectivity with the United States with regard to technology, artificial intelligence. The delegation that came with the president, including NVIDIA and OpenAI, Amazon, Elon Musk, these are all huge names internationally who are going to make connectivity in Saudi, in the UAE, and possibly in Qatar as well. Certainly, lifting the sanctions on Syria is something that is important for the region and Gulf countries specifically. No one wants a failed state to continue in Syria. It needs to be reabsorbed into the region, and it needs its economy to be strengthened. Therefore, yes, this was important to Saudi as well as to the United States. And Mr. Trump is going to get pushback for having announced a lift of sanctions on Syria. Don't doubt it. Every American, and certainly in foreign policy and in the military, there are those who would not be happy to hear that we are going to lift sanctions. This is also something that may not please the Israelis as well. So he has given something here that investment, not only Saudi in the U.S., but U.S. investment in Saudi. All of these things are win-wins for all sides.
I would like to quote the musical Camelot, and I say, Camelot's where the table is round and relationships triangular. I can see a lot of triangles here. I could see the triangle of the U.S., Saudi, and Iran. We could see also what is happening when it comes to the U.S., Turkey, and the Ukraine. And a lot of triangles are happening here. And the Israelis, they feel at this moment that they are left out of the triangles or even the round table. Is this true?
Well, we're certainly hearing a lot of reports to that effect. Let's keep in mind the Israeli Prime Minister has been to the United States twice, is in constant contact, if not with the president, then with the leadership around him. There's been no major change in U.S. policy yet with regard to Israel doing what they want in the Gaza Strip. They've
And
had
can
a
I
free.
underline the word yet you just said?
I did say yet.
Can I
We had the
underline it?
president. Well, we had the president for the first time say that the war in Gaza should end. So finally, he's turning his attention back to the Gaza Strip. This has been a bit of a disappointment for many Americans because he came in saying that he would bring peace, that he would get the hostages home, that he would lift the burden of this horrific humanitarian crisis in Gaza. And of course, he started off very well with getting that ceasefire in place. 6 weeks where Palestinians could exhale, breathe, tried to begin to regroup, got some of the hostages home, and then the Israelis broke the ceasefire and we're off to the races again. So turning his attention again to this is something I believe that Americans are ready for. Israelis make clear they are ready for. They want their hostages home. Hopefully some good can be done in this direction as well.
So going back to the question as it was, I mean, this relationship that is blessed by Saudi between the U.S. and Iran, those talks trying to reach an agreement, and the Iranians, they want to continue with their nuclear plans, but not nuclear weapons, quote unquote. And at the same time, Saudi Arabia wants the same, peaceful purposes for a nuclear program. How would Mr. Trump deal with that?
Well, he's got a much better playing field than Mr. Obama did. If you recall, in 2015, there was no support for moving forward with an agreement with Iran from countries in the Gulf. They were very concerned that America was giving too much away, that there weren't enough strictures on what Iran could do. There weren't enough verification elements to that. This time around, there's more confidence in Mr. Trump because he did withdraw from that agreement. He has been very tough on Iran. And so this is much more exactly, as you say, a partnership in going forward. Iran is having conversations with Saudi and others in the Gulf, and the United States is too. So this is an agreement, once reached, if reached, that will have much more of a buy-in from the countries in the region, which means that it can be successful if you have everybody at the table. So back to your round table there.
All right. But when everybody is at the table, at the round table, and one of the reasons why the Gulf countries were buying weapons from the U.S., especially during the first Trump administration, was Iran, because they felt threatened by Iran. Now they're not threatened. Is it in the interest of the United States that this happens, this kind of people, everybody is in accord and they are happy? And who would buy and why would they buy the weapons at these large sums of money?
Indeed. Well, it is in the United States' interest, as it is in everyone's, to avoid war when possible. So that goes without saying. That said, nations' responsibility is to guard their borders, protect their citizens. And that means very few countries would feel comfortable being completely unarmed, regardless of how friendly their neighbors are. There's a possibility of tension and having the ability to forestall by being armed to a certain extent is always something that leaders will want. So I don't have concerns that people will stop buying weapons. Some might say that's too bad, but no concern that will stop. it is important that there be better communication. And that's what is going on at this time. There are many, many obstacles in front of an agreement between the United States and Iran. We're not yet on the same page. You know that the United States has been unclear with whether we're saying they cannot have any sort of nuclear program at all, or can they enrich up to the 3.65 that was agreed under the agreement with President Obama. It's not yet clear, and Iran has its red lines. The Gulf understands that if there is conflict between the United States and Iran, that it will happen in their backyards or in their countries. And so this communication, this focus on the technical aspects of it that are coming up now, both sides agree, are going to be very, very important, but we cannot underestimate the challenges before both sides, all sides, in getting a good agreement in place.
And do you think President Trump will be able to really pull together the Gulf countries he's visiting, especially Saudi Arabia, to the Abraham Accords, especially with Saudi Arabia announcing that it will not go into any kind of deal with Israel unless there is a Palestinian state that is recognized with its borders and its government? And how will this be sorted out?
Well, we keep in mind that the Saudis said that there has to be a clear, convincing path to that Palestinian state. So that's one thing.
So it's a path, but not a state.
It didn't, they haven't said that there has to be a state, but it has to be clear that the path is open. Everybody believes that it is going to happen. It's clear how it's going to be brought about. I don't believe there was a time frame on that from the Saudi Foreign Ministry, but it has to be convincing that there's a path. And as we know, the Israelis are very adamant that that will not happen. Mm-hmm. That will not happen. And so it would be surprising, because I am a diplomat, it's surprising to hear that the president or his administration is trying to put pressure on the Saudis with those very clear red lines laid out, both from the Saudi side and the Israeli side. So there is work that has to be done with the United States, with the region. All of Israel's diplomatic partners are involved in how do we get the region, Israel, Palestinians out of this current tragedy and disaster for everyone. We've all been working on it for the last year and a half, and there is much work to be done.
Right, but I mean, if we look at it, I mean, there is a happy moment today. Everybody was happy. Everything was just people were was in jubilee, and everything was just perfect. So they didn't want to really do anything to upset that by bringing up the controversial issues, especially this one. And this is why President Trump said Saudi Arabia will join in due time at its own pace.
That's correct. That's exactly correct. And, you know, diplomacy requires sometimes papering over, sometimes setting aside and giving focus to different things. You know, confidence building measures in other ways, strengthening bilateral relationships so that understanding and trust can be built. And trust is very important and perhaps a challenge for this president because he has been so changeable in his positions, not only in his first administration, but in this first 120 days already, whether it's economics, whether people are looking at what he has said with regard to Ukraine and Russia, certainly the assistance programs that the United States has traditionally carried out. There have been big changes under President Trump, and establishing that trust that is important, integral to effective diplomacy, it is going to be time consuming as well. So in due time for many things, I think is the right phrase.
All right, let me finally ask you this, because you spoke about diplomacy. I haven't been sure whether President Trump has resorted to diplomatic language, talk, decisions along the past 120 days, let alone the first term. So why should we be expecting things to be diplomatic today? Is it only diplomatic because we're trying to pass the moment, get the best gains, and afterwards there will be some other talk about some other things? And that is not really diplomatic. I wouldn't really describe it with that term, and I wouldn't want to use a term otherwise.
Well, sir, there are many words that go before diplomacy. Quiet diplomacy, soft diplomacy, gunboat diplomacy, etc. Many, many different types.
I haven't known any type of diplomacy about President Trump's policies in the past 120 days.
Indeed. Yeah, well, maybe his is somebody else's diplomacy. We'll see. But, President Trump is the decider, as President Bush used to say. He is the final word on what goes forward, if not exactly how it goes forward. He does have a Secretary of State. He does have diplomatic envoys, and he does have an entire ministry, Department of State behind him to follow through, to work out the details. He himself is not leading the talks with Iran. That is being done via Special Envoy Witkoff, via the Secretary of State, and supported via the Department of State. Lots of diplomacy is going to be done, even if you get very crisp and clear language from the president. And that's his style. That's his style.
And you think we can get things resolved regarding Palestine while President Trump is here in the region, or nothing will, because we heard about a major announcement that will be made? Do you think this announcement will be made in the coming 2 days, and will it involve Palestine, or is it something else?
Well, it may be something else. There are other things on the table, including Saudi interest in a civilian nuclear program, security pact with the United States. So there are other things that could be announced. Certainly, the announcement of dropping sanctions on Syria count as a huge, huge step and announcement. With regard to Israel and Palestine, that is going to be step by step. I know your nation knows it as well as any, that this is just such a huge challenge, and it is going to take all of us to help the parties get to where they need to be. I think the most urgent thing, of course, is a humanitarian issue in the Gaza Strip. And we keep our eye on the West Bank as well, with land confiscations and attacks on Palestinians. All of these things have to be kept in the view as people are working for diplomatic resolution. We cannot forget what all is happening on the ground and the needs of the people.
Madam Ambassador, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Looking forward to having a more in-depth talk with you pretty soon, inshallah. Thank you.
Inshallah, it was my pleasure as well.
Thank you.
شكرا.
سفيرة جينا وينستنلي الدبلوماسية الأمريكية السابقة، مديرة مكتب شؤون المشرق في وزارة الخارجية الأمريكية سابقا.